What's good, guys? It's Sam here. First of all, I want to thank you. I just crossed 1,500 subscribers. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. But what I wanted to talk about is my diet while I was on vacation versus my diet normally and the side effects, right? Like, it was pretty drastic. Like, I'm going to go over, I wrote down a couple of the side effects, but it was pretty fucking drastic. So, if you're not following me on Instagram, there's a link in the description. I just went to Costa Rica for about 8 days. Had a fucking blast, but check out Instagram for a lot of pictures and constant. I'm doing updates with the stories a lot on Instagram. So if you want to follow along there, go check it out. But the diet on vacation, I'll just give you a synopsis and then also what I normally eat. So diet on vacation, I was drinking. I don't normally drink, and it wasn't often or anything crazy amounts. It was just I was drinking. I was also having a lot more sugar, both in the drinks, because there was a few days that I actually had soda, and then I think a couple of the Airbnbs I had orange juice at. The carbs, I was eating bread, just white bread. The calorie intake was all over the place, so generally my caloric intake for a day is relatively evenly spaced throughout the day. You know what I mean? But 5 to 6, 4 meals throughout the day, relatively spaced throughout the day. Where on vacation, it might be breakfast, and then maybe just like a couple hundred calories during midday, and then, 2,000 calories at the end of the day, or 1,500 calories depending on what was going on. So the diet was all over the place in terms of the nutritional content as well as the caloric content. The nutritional content was just not. I was eating fruit, excuse me, fresh fruit, but I don't normally eat fruit or have fructose, especially as much as that. The fruit tastes good, but I just generally don't eat fruit very often at all, period, in my diet. So that increased. I'm just trying to draw some contrast between how my normal diet is versus how it was on vacation. Also, I would say that my water consumption was down on vacation. Whether that was I was consistent for the day of what I would normally be, or I had an increased level of activity because the weather down there is very warm and I was constantly sweating, so it put me at a deficit. So both of those things I think played into it. Now, how my normal diet would be is I tend to carb backload. I'll have about 5 different types of vegetables per day. And that might be something like right here. So I have this leafy vegetable, this purple. I don't even remember the name of it. I have arugula. I have spinach, tomatoes, garlic, onions, red onions on there. And I have some garbanzo beans in the form of just a plain hummus. So I've got a bunch of different type of vegetables. And the reason I do that is because of all the different micronutrients. I also use somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 10 different types of spices and herbs on my food to add in more micronutrients and phytonutrients. And so that's how it normally is. And some of the side effects that I got from 1 week, right? 8 days of vacation. So 8 nights, probably 9 days total of vacation. I had fast food, just not a very good diet. Eating sweets, having dessert, something I don't normally do very often. Okay. So my farts don't normally smell. What they used to smell, and now with this diet that I just mentioned and how I normally consume my food, and also with the bunch of different types of vegetables, I have about 3 pounds of meat per day, and the carbs I tend to backload, so I won't really have carbs during the day very much, and I'll put them all in the evening. That's not always the case, but generally for the last few months it's been that way. So my farts started to smell. They don't normally smell. Or they don't smell really fucking rank, like fucking real bad, and they smell pretty bad. The also as a side effect, obviously your shit when you go to the bathroom started to smell a lot more too, and these are just subtle things, but they're if you have these things, more than likely it's an issue with your digestion, right? So increasing your ability to uptake and just the amount of nutrients you get, first of all, but then also by increasing the just nutrients in general, the micronutrients, the phytonutrients, all of that, the vitamins and minerals that you uptake will help cleanse your system, but also allow you to absorb more of what you intake. You probably don't get enough micronutrients as it is. Also, something that I noticed now that I do this with the diet, you know what I mean, 5+ vegetables per day, is I don't feel bloated. Also, that's another reason I generally put carbs at the back end of the day. I don't really feel bloated. I mean, I just don't feel bloated. I feel good all the time. And that's one of the reasons why I put the carbs at the end of the day. Right now, I'm actually having some rice during the day, just white plain rice, not a lot of it. If it was cooked, it would probably be about half a cup to a cup of white rice. So not a ton of white rice with my ground turkey and chicken here, and then all those vegetables I mentioned. So the bloating, that I noticed that twice, pretty strong while I was on vacation, and it's not constipation, it's just bloating. It's just, if you're not aware of it, start paying attention to when you eat and how you feel in terms of like, oh man, my stomach feels so big kind of thing. Not necessarily directly after you're eating, but maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours later, you still feel fucking bloated. And the thing that really stood out to me was my skin started breaking out. Normally in the sun, for me, my skin, I generally don't have any issues with my skin ever. My skin started breaking out. So I don't know if this is from the diet or from the humidity and the heat, because I live in Massachusetts currently. I've only been in Massachusetts for 5 months, and I was living in Florida before this. So living in Florida, I didn't have any issues with my skin. But I've been up in Massachusetts for about 5 months now, 6 months. So maybe I got used to it or something. But my skin started breaking out, like on the back of my shoulder, well, on my shoulders a little bit, on my lats right here on both sides. So that could have potentially been from the heat and the humidity, or maybe my shirt's rubbing up against it a little bit. But it's also my shoulders. And I think I got a little bit on my neck as well. Nothing on my face, but I definitely noticed also maybe a tiny bit on my chest, maybe a tiny bit at one point. Nothing crazy, nothing huge, and they would seem to be going away pretty quickly, except for the ones on the edges of my lats right in here. And I think that's probably a combination of all those, like a weighted average of all of them. But I definitely believe the diet and the water played a big part in terms of the breakouts. I'll try to do an update and see over the next few days how quickly it clears up. I've been back for about a day and a half now, and I've already seen them starting to clear up. So those are the things that I wanted to bring to light, just in terms of the diet. And it was only 9 days total, and so the farts started really smelling. I got bloated multiple times on vacation, which when I have this type of diet, I don't get bloated or notice it at all. My shit started smelling. So you're like, yeah, no shit, Sam. No pun intended, but you're taking a shit, right? Like you would think it would smell. But when I have the right amount of nutrients, right? And that's the micronutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, the phytonutrients, all that shit. My shit doesn't really smell. Like, I don't notice it at all whatsoever. But with the diet change, I noticed it drastically. And we'd be in an Airbnb, my girlfriend and I, and she would notice it. And then my skin breaking out. And that was probably the biggest thing that I noticed. But those are the things I noticed. If you guys have any comments, let me know down below in in the description, in the comment section. Jump over to Instagram and say what's up, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have. Have an awesome day. I'll talk to you soon.